right into this presentation. Let me pull it up here on my screen. Perfect. All right, so I want to take the time here to go over retirement accounts. So my name is Colin, but on social media, I'm Decade Investor at Decade Investor. So that's all my social media accounts where I am. And if you want to reach out to me and ask me any questions, at the end of this, we'll open it up. But if you have questions in the future, you can find me Instagram and Twitter at Decade Investor. So I'm most active on Twitter, but either one of those, you can reach out to me and I'll answer any of your questions on investing. But today we're going to talk about retirement accounts. So why retirement accounts, right? Why do we want to attack and put our money into retirement accounts? And you can see here the same sentence is repeated 3 times because the tax benefits are too great to pass up, which I'll go over in this presentation. But the tax benefits of retirement accounts are too great to pass up. I mean, I put it 3 times because I wanted to repeat the importance of it. But there are really, really great tax benefits in retirement accounts. And again, this is specifically for the United States. So if you're not in the United States, I didn't in this presentation put other countries and their accounts. This is going to be geared specifically towards the United States. I apologize for that, but that's what I'm most comfortable talking about as I live in the United States. But yes, the tax benefits of retirement accounts are too great to pass up. That's why I'm a fan of retirement accounts and maximizing retirement accounts. So here is just an overview. So don't worry about trying to take notes or remember this. We're going to break it down each specifically in the next couple slides. And at the end, I will talk briefly about SEP IRAs, which we'll get to when I get there. But this is just an overview of what we're going to talk about in this presentation. We're going to talk about traditional IRAs, Roth IRAs, traditional 401ks, and then Roth 401ks. And I'll break these down one by one in the following slides and just kind of go over the slight differences between these two, the IRA, the traditional and the Roth, and then the 401k and the Roth 401k. But this is just where this picture right here is where we are going to get to by breaking down traditional IRA, Roth IRA, traditional 401k, and then Roth 401k. Yeah, make sure make sure your mics are muted, just to that way we don't have anyone making noise and if you can't hear, I can mute people. So if maybe they don't know, I can, but right now I don't hear anything. If you guys have anything, just send in the chat the name. Let me just mute some people here as they come in. It's set up to have people mute as they get here, but I want to make sure everyone's muted. Okay. Everyone make sure you're muted. I don't want to keep repeating this because there we go. Most people, it should come when they come in, it should mute. But anyways, I don't want to just sit here and click mute. So everyone just make sure you're muted. That way everyone can hear the actual content rather than, something that shouldn't be talked about or noise. So a quick breakdown between IRAs and 401ks. So if we go back to the last slide, IRA, traditional and Roth, and then traditional 401k and Roth 401k. So just the breakdown between the IRAs and the 401ks. So we're not going to get into just yet traditional IRA versus Roth IRA. This is just IRAs in general versus 401ks in general. So with an IRA, which is an individual retirement account, is something you open up yourself. Let me make sure everyone's muted. Okay. So an IRA is an account that you open up yourself. And basically what that means is that you have to go into Fidelity or Webull or Vanguard or any brokerage, and select IRA. It's something that you have to go and open up yourself. It's not like your employer does it. It's not anything other than you are doing it yourself. It's individual retirement account. And with that, it typically has more options when it comes to investments. So basically, since it's yours, it's an individual retirement account, you're able to select what you want to invest in, whether it be index funds, mutual funds, individual stocks. You can pick in your IRA what you want to invest in. But with that, the IRAs, they come with lower contribution limits, meaning for 2021, it is $6,000 per year into IRAs. So you have lower contribution limits allowed in the IRA. Now with a 401k, which I'm not going to talk about 403bs, but 403b for those in the public sector, if you have a 403b, it's essentially the same as a 401k. So I don't want to take the time to just they're very, very, very similar. So that's with the 403b. So with the 401k, it's going to be an account that is sponsored by your employer. So if you get a job and they offer a 401k or a 403b, it will, when you start your first day, I just started a new job actually this past week. So I got there and I got paperwork talking about my 401k. So they might offer it through Charles Schwab or Fidelity or Vanguard. It's all just sponsored by your employer. And so you will get information from your company with the 401k. Now with the 401k, you typically have less options when it comes to what you can invest in. Now that's not always true, but most of the time you'll have less options when it comes to your investment. So for example, with my new 401k, I'm only able to select a handful of funds. I'm not able to select individual stocks. You can just ask the questions in the chat as we go, and I'll answer them when we get there. And then at the end of this presentation, I'm going to open it up for questions. That way I can focus more on the chat. So if you can, just wait until the end of the presentation. That way I'm able to, and we can go back and forth and to different slides. But so back to 401k. So you typically have less options when it comes to investments. So that's kind of the downside of the 401k. Doesn't mean it's bad, but it's just you have less options. And the last thing with 401ks is higher contribution limits. So you're able to put more than the $6,000, and we'll get to it here, what the limits are, because they differ from the IRAs. But the 401k, you are able to put more money into your 401k. Now, this is just a quick slide on traditional versus Roth, because if we go back here, see how we have traditional IRA and a Roth IRA, and then we also have a traditional 401k and a Roth 401k. So see how we have two traditionals and we have two Roths. So within the IRAs, these two IRAs, the slide that we just went over, the differences between these two, the two IRAs and the two 401ks. Now we're going to go over just a quick difference between the traditional versus the Roth. So a traditional, whether it be a traditional IRA or a traditional 401k, your contributions are pre-tax money. It's pre-taxed, meaning you put $3,000 in your 401k or in your traditional IRA or traditional 401k. That will lower your tax bill for the current year. Also, growth is tax-free, so meaning dividends. If you sell within that account and you don't withdraw the money, you keep it in the traditional. The growth is tax-free, so you won't get a tax bill every single year while you're in the traditional. And then the flip side of that is when you take the money out at withdrawal, as long as it's after 59.5, the withdrawals are taxed at ordinary income. And that all just depends on what your tax bracket is for that year that you take the withdrawals out. So with traditionals, the money you put in today is pre-tax, meaning it's not tax money. You're not paying the taxes now, but when you take it out, you are taxed then. Now with the Roth, the difference between the traditional and the Roth means that the contribution, so the money that you put in today, is post-tax money, meaning you're not getting the tax break right now. So you're paying the 30%, 18%, whatever your tax rate is, you're paying that on the contributions now. The growth, like the traditional, is tax-free. But with the Roth, whether it be an IRA or a 401k, the withdrawals are 100% tax-free. So that's the beautiful thing about Roths, are that the withdrawals are tax-free. So you pay the taxes now, but whenever you take it out after 59 and a half, and there's a little stipulation there, but the withdrawals are 100% tax-free.
Mm.
So now we're gonna, so we have this, like I was saying, I'm gonna break it down. The first one you just saw was traditional 401k. So I'm gonna break each of these columns down to talk about each one specifically. So traditional 401k, I'm gonna just kind of run through the slide, the little graphs right here. So the eligibility, so to be able to get into a 401k, like I was explaining, is of your employer. Your employer offers the 401k. And they're in that plan. Whenever you apply for a job, or whether you're in a job now, it will probably, most companies nowadays offer, if not all, most large companies, I don't know the statistic, but I would argue that majority, I'm not going to say all, because there are small ones, that companies that don't, but there are a lot of companies that offer 401ks. So the contribution limits for a traditional 401k is $19,500. And you can see, and that's per year. And you can see right there, it says 26,500 for age 50 and above. And what that means is that after age 50, you're able to, it's called a catch-up contribution, and you're able to put in, what is that? $6,000. I can do my $7,000 more in your 401k after age 50. So if you're below age 50, it's 19,500. If you're older than age 50, or excuse me, 50 and older, it is $26,500 per year. The next thing here, employer match available, which I'll talk to here on the side. Yes, pre-tax contributions, what I was explaining earlier with the traditional, is that the money you put in is pre-taxed, the contributions you put in now. The tax-free distributions, meaning the money you take out at retirement, is not tax-free, it is taxed then. Like the next thing here, 59 and a half, penalty-free distributions, meaning to be able to get without the penalty, it's a 10% penalty if you take it out before 59 and a half. To be able to get that without occurring that 10% penalty, you have to do it after age 59 and a half. And then there's this little thing here with the traditional 401k and the traditional IRA and a couple other ones, but what's called RMDs, required minimum distributions. And you can see here it says age 72 unless working. So the government, right, when you put your money in now, it's pre-taxed in your traditional 401k, right? So it's pre-tax contributions. Well, the government at some point wants their tax money. So they have this thing with the traditional 401k, what's called required minimum distribution, or RMD, where basically after age 72, there's a calculation, and it kind of differs on a lot of different aspects. That's why I didn't put it on here. But there's a calculation that you have to do to take out a certain amount of your portfolio after age 72. That way, I believe it's because the government, they want their piece of the tax money that they lost out on when you put the money in. So that's why they have these RMDs. So it's just something to keep in mind after age 72. It's not like a dramatic amount of your portfolio, but that does come into play, having required minimum distributions. So talking about the match, the employer match, what I was explaining. So rule of thumb here, number one is the company match. So if your company offers a match, that does not count towards your contributions. So I want to repeat that, because some people, I didn't know this until I read it a couple of years ago, but the company match does not count towards your contributions. So for example, if you contributed $19,500 into your 401k, and say your company matched, $5,000, actually, here's the example, right? So you technically contributed $24,500 for the year. And some people will be like, wow, that's more than what I'm allowed. But you yourself can contribute 19,500, and then whatever your company matches, that can be on an excess of that. It does not count towards your contributions. So you don't have to contribute, 14,500 because your company matches 5,000, and you put that together, that's 19,500. No, you yourself can put in $19,500, and then whatever your company matches, that doesn't count towards your contribution limit. And the rule of thumb here with the 401k that I tell people is that if your company offers a match, it is literally free money. It's free money. So uh, myself, I take it. I take the match. I get to the match. That's how I do myself. I take the match because it's literally free money. The company that you're working for is offering to match whatever you're investing. So just keep that in mind whenever you're thinking about your 401k. Is it's free money. It's literally, imagine you put in 50 and someone else gave you $50 to invest. That's essentially what it is. Your company is giving you free money to invest. Two little more things here on this, but if your company offers a match, and let's just say the match, usually it's a percent, right? So like you can see up here, company A offers a 100% match up to 5% on contributions. So let's say mathematically, up to 5% is $5,000 a year based on what you make and what the company matches. So if their maximum match it would be is 5,000, and if you invest into your 401k 7,000, they will only do up to the match. So you can contribute more than the match, but your company, based on what their guidelines are and what they do, will only contribute up to the match, right? But if you contribute less than the match, so let's say you put in $4,000, they're only going to put in $4,000. So they will match up to their limit, and then whatever you do above that, they won't go over. But if you do less than the limit of what they'll match, they will only match up to what you put in. So just something to keep in mind, that to get the full match, you will have to put in the full amount, at least of what the match is, because you can't put in 100 and they'll match, they'll put in 5,000. If you put in 100, they'll put in 100. So just something to keep in mind with the traditional 401k. So the Roth 401k, which is a little bit different than the traditional 401k, but similar in the sense that your employer will have it as it'll be an option. You can open up either traditional or a Roth 401k. A Roth 401k is fairly new. I'm not saying it's brand new, but it's fairly new in the sense of investing year. So it's fairly new. So some companies might not offer it yet, but I see more and more companies offering a Roth 401k. So again, eligibility, your employer comes up with it. It's their plan. Contribution limits is the same as the traditional 401k. Your employer match is available. Pre-tax contribution. So this is where it comes in different than the traditional 401k. The pre-tax contributions of a Roth 401k, you don't get any pre-tax contributions. It's all post-tax, again, because it's a Roth. It's a Roth, so the money that you put in has already been taxed. However, after age 59 and a half, you're able to take those withdrawals and those distributions tax-free. So again, because it's a Roth, you put in the money now that's already taxed, but when you take it out, it is tax-free. There are, again, required minimum distributions, which I'll get to why that is because the employer match, so the match that your employer puts in, so they will match with a traditional or a Roth. Say you decide to go the Roth route. The employer, what your employer match is, they put that money in pre-tax. So essentially within your Roth, you have the match money is pre-tax money. So even whenever you reach 59 and a half, some of that portfolio, if you have the match, will be taxed because your employer, when they put their money in, they put it in tax-free. So that's just something to keep in mind with the Roth 401k is you yourself, your contributions are post-tax, but the company, what they match will be pre-tax, right? They want to save that tax bill. So your company, what they match will be pre-tax money. So when it comes to withdrawals after age 59 and a half, there will be a little bit of tax because of what your employer match is. So now moving on to IRAs. So those were 401ks. IRAs, again, are individual retirement accounts. So a little bit different here. So the eligibility, again, it's nothing to do with your employer. It's all based on you yourself opening that account. So all you have to have is earned income. And earned income is a little bit different than just income. Most people, like most of the time, you get your money from your work or anything like that. That's earned income. But there are some things that are technically not considered earned income. So if you are unsure, most of the time it will be earned income. But if you aren't sure, just a quick Google search, what's considered earned income versus not, will get you a list of things that are and aren't considered earned income. But with the traditional IRA, your contribution limit is $6,000 per year. And then they also offer a catch up after age 50, which is $7,000 per year. There is no employer match, again, because it's an individual retirement account, so you open it up yourself. With the pre-tax contributions, again, this is traditional. So with the traditional, it is pre-tax money that you put in today. However, moving to the next one, tax-free distributions, no. So you pay the taxes later. And you can see here on pre-tax contributions, it does say subject to income limits and retirement plan eligibility, which I'll talk to in a second. But there are, again, 59.5 is the baseline for all the retirement accounts when you can get your money without incurring a penalty, as 59.5 and older. And then again, because this is like the traditional 401k, you have these required minimum distributions because you're saving your taxes now and you're paying them later. And the government, they want their piece, so they're gonna want you to start taking required minimum distributions after age 72. So with the IRA, it's a little bit different because so let me explain it like this. So with the 401k, when you put your money in, it automatically leaves your paycheck. So you don't even see it on your tax bill. It goes before the taxes come out. Since the traditional IRA is an individual retirement account, technically the taxes have already been taken out because when you get your pay stub from your company, from your paycheck, the taxes have already been taken out. But if you decide to go the traditional IRA route, when it comes to doing your taxes for that year, for the previous year, so for example, right now we're doing our 2020 taxes. When it comes to that time, you will have tax forms that will show that you contributed to a traditional IRA. So you could be able to get a tax refund because you lowered your tax bill by contributing to a traditional IRA. So it's just something to keep in mind, that you won't see that tax break like the minute you put into a traditional IRA, like you will in a 401k. But when it comes time to do the taxes, it will be noted on the tax forms. So keep in mind, like I said, RMDs, required minimum distributions, that come at age 72 and older. And then with the traditional IRA, like I was saying here on the pre-tax contributions, there are no income limits. So it doesn't matter, how much money you make, you can invest into a traditional IRA, but there are income limits when it comes to tax deductible contributions. To get that tax break, there are income limits. And it's a long list, so I didn't want to just say, put it on here and bore you guys or confuse you all with the limits. But if you are confused or you want to know more, definitely send me a DM on Twitter or Instagram, and I will send that information over to you, or just do a quick Google search. What are the income, or what are the tax deductible contribution limits for a traditional IRA, and it'll pop up and you'll be able to get the information there. But again, if I would have put it on here, it would have been very confusing, and for most people it might not pertain to everybody. So the last account type out of the four that we talked about at the beginning, which is my favorite, the Roth IRA. So with the Roth IRA, again, the eligibility, just like traditional IRA, is earned income. Contribution limits the same, 6,000, and if you're age 50 and older, it is 7,000. There is no employer match because, again, it's an individual retirement account. The pre-tax contributions, it's a Roth, remember? So what a Roth is you are paying the taxes now, but when it comes to taking your money out and withdrawing after age 59.5, it is 100% tax-free. And then penalty-free distributions. So this one's gonna be a little different than the rest because, again, Roth IRA, you've already paid the taxes on that money you put in. So you're actually technically able, like I'll show it right here on the side, you can withdraw your contributions after a 5-year holding period before age 59.5 without penalties. Meaning let's say it's, it's 2021 and you put $6,000 in your Roth IRA this year. In 5 years, you can take out that $6,000, only the contributions, not the growth or the earnings. You can take out your contributions after a 5-year holding period before age 59 and a half without incurring the 10% penalty. However, just if you are thinking about doing that, really think about taking that money out and second guessing yourself, because you want to let that money grow, right? That's how I invest, and I want to let my money continue to grow, and I don't want to disrupt compound interest. So really think about if you want to do that, if you are possibly deciding on taking out your contributions after a 5-year holding period. With the Roth IRA, there are no required minimum distributions, right? The government already got their taxes when you contributed, because that money was post-tax contributions. So there are no required minimum distributions in the Roth IRA. So you can hold that from, until you're 85 years old, and you won't have to take out if you don't want to. You can pass it on to your children. There are no required minimum distributions in a Roth IRA. So just a couple bullet points here. Like I said, Roth IRA is my favorite account type because the money is contributed post-tax. The growth every single year, the dividends, all that stuff is tax-free. You can sell within any of these retirement accounts. You can sell within them and change what you want to invest in, as long as you don't take that money out of the shield, the tax shield, meaning the retirement account itself. As long as you keep that money in there and don't withdraw any of it, there will be no taxes on the sales or anything like that. And then with the Roth IRA, more specifically, tax-free withdrawals. So basically, all you're doing is you're paying the taxes now on the $6,000 or $7,000 if you're age 50 and older, and you can take out that money 100% tax-free after 59 and a half. Like I said, no Uncle Sam in your pocket at retirement. You can take it out when you want to take it out after age 59 and a half. No required minimum distributions and no taxes. And there are one thing though with a Roth IRA, and this is just a kind of the beginning, so I'll explain it. And then, so income limits to keep in mind. So with a Roth IRA, there are income limits to keep in mind. If you make $125,000 or more as a single filer, or you make $198,000 or more if you're filing jointly, it starts to phase out. So it's not like if you make $126,000, you can't invest into a Roth IRA, but it starts to phase out and minimize how much you can invest into a Roth IRA if you make over that amount. However, and you guys probably know the Wealth Dad. He's one of the people in the chat. He always does these lessons. But the Wealth Dad this past year, or excuse me, like last month, he did what's called a backdoor Roth IRA. And I don't know much about it. I know basically what it is you create an IRA account. So you create a traditional IRA account, and then you the $6,000 in there, and then you convert it into a Roth IRA. You pay the taxes, and then you have the Roth IRA account. So if you make over 125,000 as a single filer, or 198,000 if you're filing jointly, you start to phase out. But you are able to you can still max out a Roth IRA by doing what's called a backdoor IRA. And that's something that I don't know too much about, other than what it is. But if you are interested, I would definitely recommend reaching out to the Wealth Dad. He did it this past year, so he would obviously know a lot more than I do on how to do it. So just a quick retirement account rules. Number 1, do not withdraw early. Why is that? It's because you will incur a 10% penalty, and then depending on the account type, you will also pay taxes. And which, taxes are taxes. But in my opinion, the worst part about it is the 10% penalty. 10% of whatever you're withdrawing is automatically going to be penalized. So if you're withdrawing, $10,000, there's $1,000 you lost out on. If you're withdrawing $100,000, there's $10,000 where you're automatically penalized. Or if you're withdrawing $1 million, there's $100,000 you're losing out if you withdraw early. So if you are able to, do not withdraw early. Don't do that. There are different reasons as to how you can withdraw early from a retirement account without incurring the penalty. And there's a list of different ways. It can be, I know like one is if you're a first time home buyer, or if there's like a medical thing, there's ways that you can apply to not get that 10% penalty. But I just would say, if you're able to, do not withdraw early out of the retirement account, because that 10% penalty is not too nice. The second thing is this. Now, like I just said, there are exceptions to the withdrawal rule for qualified purchases or reasons, but even then, just second guess it, because you want your money working for you. And I understand there are things that come up, whether it be health or buying a house, and there's things that come up. And I'm not saying never do it, but just at least you understand the consequences or the reasons as to what would happen if you did, or what would happen if you didn't. Number three is strategies will differ amongst everyone. So think about what you want to do before tying that money up, because with a retirement account, right, you have that penalty if you withdraw early, right? So there are downsides to early. So strategies will differ amongst everyone. And if you don't want to tie your money up for that long, and you think you want to use it before, then go with a taxable account, right? You're not going to get that tax benefit, but you also won't incur that 10% penalty, right? So it's something that is going to differ for everyone. In going into retirement accounts, right? At least understand that if you do withdraw early, what the penalty will be. So, if you're, maybe you're in your late teens or your early 20s, and you don't think you want to tie your money up until you're, 59 and a half, by all means, I'm not going to tell you what I'm not going to tell you what you can and can't do. But just keep in mind of the consequences or the benefits of tying your money up that long. And then the fourth thing about traditional versus Roth. So traditional 401k, traditional IRA versus a Roth IRA and a Roth 401k is, ask yourself, do you want to pay taxes now, or do you want to pay taxes later? That's kind of the constant battle between traditional versus Roth is, do you want to pay taxes now, or do you want to pay taxes later? Some people, they want to lower their tax bill now, so they go traditional route. Other people, they want to just pay the taxes now because they don't know what the tax structure is going to look like in 20, 30, 40, 50 years, however long you have until you're going to withdraw. So they'll pay the taxes now. So when it comes to 59 and a half and older, the Roth IRA, it doesn't matter what the tax levels are. They can get it 100% tax free. Other people want to lower their tax bill now, like I said, and they'll pay the taxes later, but they just want to lower their tax bill now. So just ask yourself, when do you want to pay taxes, now or later? Because that will also help you when deciding on which type of retirement account to go with. So I had a message when I sent that this lesson was going on tonight. Someone asking me about self-employed people and retirement accounts there. So I don't know too much about these because I don't use them. So I'm not going to go too in depth. I just did a quick little research on this one right here, which is a SEP IRA, which is the Simplified Employee Pension Individual Retirement Arrangement, or Individual Retirement Account. And essentially what this SEP IRA is, it's for people that are self-employed. I know a family friend of mine, she's a realtor, and she uses this. So she falls under that as well, and she can invest into a SEP IRA. It's treated like a traditional IRA in the sense that you don't pay taxes now, but you pay the taxes later. So you lower your tax bill now. The contribution limit is the lesser of $58,000 or up to 25% of total compensation. So it's the lesser of the two. So keep that in mind. It's not the greater of the two. It is the lesser of the two. And when it comes to the limits of your SEP IRA and what you can contribute, the eligible compensation limit in 2021 is $290,000. So depending on your income, that can fluctuate and change on if you're able to use the SEP IRA. With the SEP IRA, you can open it at many major brokerage accounts or brokerage services. Just, when you go to open an account, it will be on there for most of them. SEP IRA will be an option. There might be a little bit more paperwork you have to go through than if you're just going to open up an IRA, but it will be on the page if they offer it. And then the same like the other retirement accounts, there is a 10% early withdrawal penalty and the taxes you will owe if you withdraw early. So it's just similar treated like the other 4 types of retirement accounts is the 10% withdrawal penalty and your taxes. So keep that in mind if you decide to go the SEP IRA route. If you're self-employed, that there is that penalty and the taxes owed. So just something to keep in mind with that SEP IRA and that type of account. So that's basically it. That's the rundown of these 4 account types. And then I did the SEP IRA, and I apologize because I don't know too much about the SEP IRA right now, and I don't want to give false information. So I just researched a little bit today on it. But if you are interested more, or if you're interested more on the SEP IRA, definitely send me a message and I will connect you with someone or lead you to someone that can answer your questions more directly. But that's basically the 4 major account types: the traditional, the Roth, the traditional IRA, the Roth IRA, traditional 401k, and the Roth 401k. So I threw this up here because if you want to take a screenshot of this graph right here is for 2021. Sometimes each year the contribution limits may change. So it's just something for 2021, this is a great screenshot to have when you're deciding on what retirement account that you want to go with. So I'm going to open up for questions here. I'm going to get off this screen, so I'll leave it up here for a little bit as I answer a couple questions. And then I'm going to get off here, and I'll still answer questions, but I'm just going to take it off the screen sharing. But I'm going to go through the chat and see if there's any questions first, and then I'll open it up. And actually, let's just open it up. There's so many chat questions. I'll just kind of go through. So anyone, if you have any questions, just speak up and then.
Yes, quick question. I was wondering if you had any recommendations as far as a brokerage or like who to go through.
Yeah. So for me, I use Vanguard for my Roth IRA, and then and you could use Fidelity or Charles Schwab, any like major big name.
What did you guys hit the window with?
Any major big name brokerage will be great. I don't think. I think that'll be your best option, right? Go through Vanguard, Fidelity, Charles Schwab. That's where I use, like I said, Vanguard. And okay, that's all going to be based on what the company decides to use. So my last company that I was with used Charles Schwab, and then my current company uses Fidelity. So that you're not able to decide on. But with your IRA, your traditional or your Roth, I would just go with major brokerage, a big one like Vanguard, Fidelity, Charles Schwab, something like that.
Question.
Hey, I have a question. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Thank you for, first and foremost, thank you for taking the time out to teach this information, and it's super valuable. Secondly, in your opinion, I had a 401k with my previous employer. Unfortunately, I was laid off due to COVID, and my current employer does not offer 401k.
Mm-hmm.
I've been thinking about transferring it over into a traditional IRA account. Would you suggest that, or would you suggest I keep this current 401k and just continue to pay into it?
Yeah. First off, I'm sorry to hear about that, but I'm glad that you were able to find something. I would, and I'm going through this too because I just switched jobs, like I said. I would personally transfer it into a traditional IRA just because, one, you don't want to. A lot of people say don't leave it in the old company's 401k, just because you never know what's going to go on with that, in that company, all that thing. And number 2, if you transfer it into a traditional IRA, you're able to decide more on what you want to invest in, especially if your previous company, they only gave you certain funds you can invest in, which usually more often than not will have a high expense ratio. So I would personally, if I was in your shoes, what I would do is transfer it, and I'm going to do this as well with my previous 401k, is transfer it into just a traditional IRA and get it under my brokerage, under my stuff. That way, if anything happens with my old company, I don't have to worry about my 401k and what's going to happen. It's all under my name and my information.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Appreciate that information.
No problem.
I got a question too.
Yeah.
So I withdrew all my money from my 401k and John Hancock into Fidelity into a traditional. So I got that 401k going. I just got a new job. and they also offer a 401k, but I don't know if I plan on staying there for more than 3-4 months right now. I'm just getting my experience built up,
Mhm.
and I also want as much on my paychecks um,
Mhm.
at the same time. So I don't know if it would be a good idea to just take the short loss on my paychecks and invest it into their 401k because they do match me. So
Mhm.
technically, I'm getting money out of them too.
Right.
What would you recommend if I what should I do?
Yeah. So I would look at the company, your current company, because sometimes companies will have what's called a vesting period, meaning you have to stay at that company for a certain amount of years usually to get most of the match. So, for example,
Okay.
in my last company, right, I was actually only there for a year, and I didn't, even though they matched, I think it was 3% or excuse me, 2%. They only matched like 1% of it because I wasn't there for it was like after 2 years they would move it up to 2%. So I would look and see if it has anything talking about a vesting, it's a vesting, vesting period, and see what that
Okay.
is. Because if you're only going to be there for a few months, it might, yeah, you might get like a 1% match, but it's probably not going to be a dramatic amount of money that they're going to match anyways. So I would just, if the vesting period isn't great, or it's like you have to be there for a year before you even get the match, then definitely I wouldn't. That way you don't have to worry about when you leave and then 3 or 4 months to have to transfer it over and go through all that paperwork. Um,
Right.
and let's just say, for example, they don't have a vesting period. They, day one they match. If you're only going to be there for 3 or 4 months, and I would just, if you, as long as here's my my piece of advice. As long as you're going to invest that money that would have got invested into a 401k, if you're going to put it into a investments period, then I personally don't see an issue with it because that you're going to leave, in 3, 4, 5 months. That I don't want you to go through the hassle of paperwork to get it transferred over to something else if you're going to invest that money anyways. Does that make sense?
Yeah, yeah. Um, and also on top of that, I think you have to pay taxes or a little fee. I was obviously the taxes depends on how you got it set up, but isn't there fees involved there too that you're going to lose out on once you transfer it?
So if you transfer traditional 401k to it's called a rollover IRA, which basically means, like I was
Yeah,
explaining in
that's
the
what I
last
got.
question. Yeah. So you shouldn't have paid, there might have been maybe some like brokerage fees, but taxes on that money itself should have never been paid or you shouldn't have any because you're taking it from a tax sheltered account into another tax sheltered account. The only time taxes would come into play if you were taking that traditional 401k and maybe rolling it into a Roth IRA, you would have paid taxes just because it's Roth versus traditional.
Okay.
But if you're going from traditional 401k to traditional IRA, there shouldn't be any taxes on that money. Now, again, there might be fees associated with that from brokerage to brokerage, but when it comes to that money itself, there shouldn't be any taxes on there.
Okay, and one last thing, I'll let you go.
Yeah.
The vesting thing, you said if it's like 1% or something, it might not be worth it. But say it's like 3 or 4%. I'm pretty sure they on their brochure that they gave me in orientation said 6%, but it might be over a longer period of time, like you said. But if it starts off at like 3%, then it might be a little worth it. You think?
Yeah, I mean, and again, I want to say yes, and I am saying yes because I agree it's worth it. My only thing is to keep in mind with that, if you know you're going to leave in the next 3, 4, 5 months, there will be paperwork you have to do to try to get that. Not It's not like it's like hard to do, but it's just paperwork you have to fill out to get that transferred over or rolled over into a new
Right.
401k or to IRA. I mean, if it's a good vesting, it's 3% match, then I would definitely do it. But just know that there will be fees associated, or not fees, excuse me, paperwork associated that
Yep.
you have to fill out. Just a little bit more work, but again, it's free money. So
Exactly.
yeah, you can't say no to free.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. I appreciate it, man. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
I have a question.
Yes.
So I have my old 401k from my own company like 3 years ago, and I haven't done anything with it. I keep hearing you saying rollover. Is it better to do the rollover 401k or the rollover IRA?
I honestly haven't had experience with a rolling into a new 401k. I think a lot of people you will go the IRA route, meaning they just roll their old 401k into a new IRA. And that's just because I think it's a lot less paperwork, because you have to, if you're going from 401k to 401k, you have to go through your company and all that kind of stuff. If you're just rolling over to a traditional IRA, it's just something it's an individual retirement account. So it's something that you own yourself, not own, but you decide on yourself. So I would go and I'm going to go with my old 401k into a traditional IRA. So I think I don't have experience, so I can't say it's easier to do than rolling to a new 401k, but I just know a lot of people go into their traditional IRAs.
If you roll it over to an IRA, does the 6,000?
No, you won't. So if you roll over, no, it will not count against your yearly contributions.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Hey, how's it
I have a
going?
question.
Sorry.
Yeah, a lot of people. So just one person will. Yeah.
Hi. Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, so I have my personal 401k through my employer.
Okay.
I also have been holding on to some money on a savings account that belongs to my mother.
Okay.
It's a decent amount of money. I don't know what to do with it because obviously it's her money and I don't want to have to pay a lot of taxes on it.
Okay.
But I am having to pay yearly every time I file my personal income taxes. I'm having to pay a fee for having that money just on a regular savings account.
Okay.
What do you recommend that I do to avoid paying taxes or fees with her money?
Mm-hmm. So, are you saying that the taxes just come from like your savings account interest tax, or are you saying fees from like a gift tax?
Well, she doesn't want to have the money under her name, so she basically gave it to me to put it away, which is what I did. I just put it in a regular savings account. So every time that I file taxes, the bank sends me a letter saying, "All right, this is like a regular statement of my yearly, I guess, interest that they paid towards, which is nothing."
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah, for sure.
And I just don't know whether to. I don't want to invest it because I don't really want to jeopardize her money. I don't want to, play with her money. I kind of just want it to avoid paying taxes, but I want to maybe put it somewhere where it's going to, create dividends or make her more money. But I don't want to be locked to something just in case she does need her money at some point in time.
And I get that. That's a tough spot because when you invest, money, in the stock market or anywhere, there is that risk of losing that money in the short term. And, if you don't want that to be the case, then, I don't have an answer for you other than savings accounts sucks, but that's probably going to be your safest bet. You could look into, maybe doing like a Roth IRA for your mom. The only thing is she would have to be able to show the government that she did $6,000 or more of earned income if you wanted to max it out. And that way you would have that tax shield. But other than that, I off the top of my head, I don't know like a safe place to put that money other than a savings account that would, anywhere than like any investing it, you're going to play that risk, right? Of that short-term risk of the market. So I know that sucks, but I don't have an answer for you on another spot. And number two, I think from what you told me, the safest bet is just keeping it in the savings account. That way, you're not going to get, your interest is, you're not getting squat for it, but it's better than possibly losing it in the short term in the stock market.
Gotcha. And then the Roth IRA or traditional IRA, though it doesn't benefit me because I won't have access to it at any point in time soon, right? It's something that I will be penalized obviously on, and the taxes I would get.
Yes.
Murdered.
So you would, depending on your age, if you're over 59 and a half, then you could take that out at any time without penalty. But what I was saying was your mom could open one up for her. But by law, she has to be able to prove that she had $6,000 or more of earned income if you wanted to max it out at 6,000. But if she's over 59 and a half, she would be able to withdraw that money without taxes, and it would grow tax free and all these things. But again, it's investing it, so you're playing that short term risk.
Right. I thank you very much, and I want to apologize for everybody if I took too much time. Thank you.
No, you're good. No worries. Thank you.
Hi, I have a question about something.
Yes.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, so I have a 401k for my job, and I chose Roth IRA. So are they supposed to take the contribution out after I'm taxed, like straight from my paycheck? Because I noticed that they're taking them, like I did the calculations, and they're taking the money from my gross like income, not from what I'm being taxed on, like my paycheck. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So you selected Roth 401k from your company, and they're taking the money pre-tax.
Yeah, because I did the calculations on what my income would be after taxes, and they're taking the money from before taxes. But when I went to log on to my account, it shows Roth IRA.
So Roth, do you mean Roth 401k?
Yeah, sorry.
Okay.
Oh.
So I don't have an answer. I'd have to like see kind of what it was. I would probably just reach out to like HR and say, hey, like I want to double check that this is the case because I'm running my own calculations and it's not checking out of what I'm getting. So I think your best bet could, just because I don't have the information of like, all what you're telling, like I believe you, I'm just saying I can't see it and see what the issue is. I think your best bet would be just sending an email or calling your HR and just saying, hey, like, can I just get some confirmation that I'm putting this money in a Roth 401k rather than a 401k because I'm seeing it coming out before taxes are taken out, and I don't want that to be the case. I think that's going to be your best bet. And if they can't answer it, then I would just just see what they say first before you make any more moves.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Question.
Yes.
I don't get I'm with a current employer, and I don't get I don't qualify for a 401k until a year of being there, and I think they match at 4%. But my question is, right now I do want to open up some type of account. I keep hearing about the Roth IRA, and that one probably being a better choice than like a traditional 401k. And I was wondering, what do you recommend? Like if I open up like a Roth IRA, oh Lord Jesus, if I open up a Roth IRA now, and then my company opens up one after a year of me being there, like a 401k, is it good to have two out there? Or what if I wanted to transfer the money into like another one? Like, how does that kind of work? I'm not exactly sure.
Yeah. So
what are your recommendations?
Yeah. So first part of your question, I would open up. So understanding that, and I'm sure you understand this. I'm just speaking out in my mind, but that with any retirement account, right? You have that possible penalty of taking out before. So knowing that the money that you're putting in will probably be, I don't want to say tied up because that sounds bad, but will be in that account for a long time. I'm a fan of the Roth IRA. So right now, before you're offered that 401k, picking between a traditional or a Roth, I'm a fan of the Roth. Now there's people that are fans of traditional IRAs, but I'm a fan of the Roth IRA. So if I was in your shoes, right, I would start putting my money in the Roth IRA now, just something, get that money in there. Because again, when you reach 59 and a half and older, it's 100% tax-free. So that's, great to hear. And then when you get to that point where you're offered the 401k, and they offer that match, you can have both. Like I have a Roth IRA and a 401k, traditional 401k. So a lot of people have both. And so there's nothing wrong with having both. And a lot of people have both because of the great tax benefits that are offered in retirement accounts. So again, I have, 401k and Roth. I personally, like I said earlier, like strategies are going to be different. I'm early 20s. So I focus on my Roth IRA because I like the tax-free withdrawal. And I also do my 401k, but I'm not going too heavy into my 401k. I'm just taking the company match and that's it. I'm not taking anything more because, I'm young. So I think my Roth IRA should be sitting pretty good by the time I'm, 59 and a half because I don't plan on touching it. But that was kind of off tangent, but there's nothing wrong with having both. There's nothing wrong with having a 401k and a Roth IRA or a traditional IRA. There's nothing wrong with having both. A lot of people do both because they both offer great tax benefits.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Hey, I have a question.
Yes.
Okay, so I have a regular 401k for my company right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I've been wanting to roll everything over into a Roth IRA. My company offers a match for it. Do you know anything about that process of how you would go about doing something like that?
So you're saying rolling your traditional 401k into a Roth 401k?
A Roth IRA.
Roth IRA. So, and then I want to, so you said your company will match the Roth IRA?
Yes.
I've honestly never heard of that. I would double check on that because your IRA, your Roth IRA or traditional IRA there's nothing tied with your employer. So I will double check and see it might've said Roth 401k. If that's the case, then basically how that process works is if you rolled it from a traditional 401k into a Roth 401k, you would pay taxes on the money now, but then it would just basically, you would just say it was like 60,000, right? You transferred over, you'd pay taxes on that. And then from this point moving forward in the Roth 401k, it would be, tax-free except for the company match. So I would just double check because I don't want to say.
There's definitely a strong chance that I have it wrong.
Okay, and then no worries. Yeah, no worries. I would just double check. And if that's the case, then because it more than likely, I'm not saying you're wrong, but I just never heard of that. And it might be new, and that's awesome. I would love for my company to match my Roth IRA contributions, but I would just double check and see, and then. If you're thinking about it, just keep in mind, whatever the amount of money in there is, you're going to pay taxes on that to transfer over to that Roth 401k. So just see if that's going to be worth it to do it. If it's, depending on, it's going to depend on how much money's in there and stuff like that. But just keep in mind and like the taxes that will incur by doing that. So just keep that in mind.
And is that something that you would probably talk to your brokerage like Vanguard or something, or would you talk to HR about that?
Yeah, it would be something that you would change through your company. Like say they use Fidelity, right? It'd be something you change probably more than likely on your like Fidelity 401k site or account. It might be something you have to reach out to HR. I would probably reach out to HR first, say, hey, this is what I'm thinking about doing. What are the steps to go from here? Because it might be different than my company than yours or, from different brokerages. So I would probably reach out to your HR first, say, hey, I want to roll my 401k into a Roth 401k. What are the steps I need to take? And they'll, hopefully guide you in the right direction.
All right. Thank you. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem.
I have a question. Can I jump in?
Yeah, go ahead.
I was hoping that you could talk a little bit about a self-directed IRA to purchase real estate.
So great question. I personally don't know super much about that at all. And I don't want to run the wrong information across, especially, 200 people, 300 people. So I think that's a great question. If you would send me a message on my social media account, and I will definitely direct you to someone that knows more about that or would have more information, because I don't right now, and I don't want to, lead you down the wrong path. So great question. I just apologize. I don't have that information.
I appreciate that. What's your Instagram handle?
It's Instagram and Twitter is Decade Investor. No spaces, @Decade Investor.
Thank you.
No problem.
I have a question.
Yes.
So, I recently started investing in my 401k last August, and I found that my company had $5,000 already vested in it.
Okay.
I never contributed to it, and then I rolled everything over to a Roth 401k through my employer, and they're matching. And I just want to know, do I have to pay taxes on that $4,000 from them that I rolled over into my Roth 401k?
So, I don't know the answer to that because I've never heard of that. However, I would, if I had to guess. Now, this might not be true, but with Roth 401k accounts, the money that you put in is post-tax money, but the money that your company matches is pre-tax, like I was explaining earlier. So it would probably, again, I don't know for certain. Tax laws and tax codes are very complex. But if it's the company match, if it stays true with what the Roth 401k works, then that money would not be taxed. But I can't guarantee that because tax codes are different and they change, and it might be different from money that's already been in there versus match moving forward. But if it stays true to what the Roth 401k is, then it wouldn't have been taxed. But I don't want to say that for certainty because it might be a little bit different. So that would be a great question, probably for like an accountant, or maybe even HR would know that. But with the Roth 401k, moving forward in that contribution that your company will put in is pre-tax. I just don't know if the money that's already been in there, how that will affect your taxes.
Okay, so when I go to withdraw it, when I'm approaching 55 or 65, am I going to have to pay the taxes on that?
So your Roth 401k contributions, no. However, the company contributions, yes, because since they put their money in pre-tax, when it comes to 59 and a half and older, that money will be taxed. However, the money you put in will not be, because you already paid the taxes.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Hey, quick question. I maxed out my Roth IRA already for this year, and so I'm super excited about that.
Awesome.
The only thing, thank you. The only thing is my employer, they won't match me unless I've been working with them for 5 years.
Okay.
And I'm not too stoked about that. So until then, I won't be contributing to their 401k. I started in November of last year. So I'm interested to hear your take just with that situation.
Yeah. Can I ask just your age, or like around what age you are?
Yeah, I'm 26 and I'll be 27 in April.
Okay. So I'm almost 23. So here's how I see it. So we're in our 20s, and that money that we put into our retirement accounts, Roth IRA, tradition, any of them, hopefully we plan to never touch that until 59 and a half, without, because if we did, we'd incur the penalty and all that stuff. So here's how I do it. So here's how I would do it. Here's how I do it right now. My 401k, my company offers a match. However, if they didn't offer a match, I would not put money into a 401k, because I max out my Roth IRA every year, and I also invest in more than that $6,000 into taxable accounts. So I have a lot of that stuff working for me. So that's gonna be different for someone maybe in their 40s or 50s, because they're gonna need that money. That money will be able to be withdrawn tax free at 59 and a half earlier than us in our early 20s. So to answer your question, I don't want to tell you what you should or shouldn't do, but how I do it, and if even if when I'm 26, it'll be the same way. If my company doesn't offer a match in my 401k, I won't take it, even though there's that tax benefit. My Roth IRA, I'm going to max it out. And, by the time I'm 59 and a half, the Roth IRA is going to be worth a lot. And the taxable accounts that I already invest in on top of the Roth IRA will hopefully be more, a lot of money as well by that point. But if I'm 40 or 50, I might, even if my company didn't offer that match, I would do it to take that tax benefit. But I'd personally, at 20, early 20s, I don't necessarily see that best strategy for me. But again, that's different by age. So I don't know. Hopefully I answered your question in a roundabout way.
Yeah, for sure. I just don't want to kind of limit myself. And so similar to you, I do invest in other kind of areas. And so I'm not going to wait until 5 years, right? So
yeah. And like with that too, like, I mean, if you want, by all means, like, you can invest in that 401k without getting that match to lower your tax bill. By all means, go for it. I'm not, it's not like you have to do it or you don't. But just how I see it is, I don't like with the, traditional 401k having to pay taxes when it's worth a lot of money later. So that's why I like the Roth IRA, where I just pay my taxes now, eat that tax bill, and by the time I'm 59 and a half, it'll be, hopefully sitting pretty nice. Again, that's, it might, next year, you might be like, okay, I want to lower my tax bill because I'm in a higher tax bracket. So I'll go with my 401k, even though I'm not getting that match, I'm going to lower my tax bill. But it's good that you're thinking about these things, because it gets to the point where you can start to play around with, how your tax bill will sit for the year, because you're putting in, into that 401k, whether or not you get that match.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Quick question. Can you talk a little bit about structuring your Roth IRA account and the different, I guess, ETFs and funds you should be focusing on in terms of having diversity and building that up?
Yeah. So personally, in my Roth IRA, I keep in very broad market, low cost index funds, or ETFs. With the IRA, you can pick whatever you want to invest in. You can pick in index funds, or you can also, invest into Tesla, or you can invest into anything. But for me, since, it's more of that $6,000, max it out and just kind of like put it on the side and focus on my taxable accounts and my other investing accounts. I just keep it in index funds or ETFs that are low expense ratio, and just kind of put it in there and let it ride for the next, 30, 40 years. And so I do like VTSAX, which is the entire US market. I do a little bit of international exposure. And then I also have a tech fund, focus fund in my Roth IRA, and that's it. I keep it at 3. And I just, again, I'm VTSAX has the entire US market. So I'm just kind of essentially betting on America for moving forward in the next, 30, 40 years and growing my account that way.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you.
No problem.
Question.
Yeah.
Hey, I have a 401k with my company I work with, and they are actually, I don't know, the stock is around like $700. I think I'm putting most of it into my company's 401k, and they're actually going to split a 3-to-1 split in April. Do you think I should still invest in the same amount, or should I draw back some or invest more? Or how would you do it?
Yeah. So are you putting all your investments in your 401k into your company stock, or is that
majority, 90%?
Okay. And I mean, a split doesn't necessarily like change anything other than the amount of outstanding shares. So if you feel comfortable and you believe, in your company stock and it's doing well, and you believe in it, and you like to put 90% of your money in there, and you want to continue to do that, then a 3-to-1 split or a 2-to-1 split or a split doesn't change the valuation of the company. So if that's what you feel most comfortable doing, even though there is a split, then by all means keep doing that. If you want to kind of scale it back, then you can maybe put 70% in your company and put 30% somewhere else. But I don't like with that split, it's not gonna, it doesn't, again, a split, whether it's your company or Tesla or Apple, it doesn't change anything other than the amount of outstanding shares, and obviously the share price splits, but it doesn't change the valuation of the company.
Okay, gotcha. Would you know if the dividends, how would the dividends work? Would they change now that, I have more shares, or would that number for the dividends be deducted to equal out as the same?
It would change. The amount you receive isn't going to change, but the dividends per share is going to change. But I'm trying to do like quick math to make it make. So like, let's say it's $1 dividend and there's, 100 shares and they do a 2-to-1 split or 2-for-1 split. So now there's 200 shares and they pay they each pay a 50-cent dividend. But since you own double, you're still getting your $1. It's just the dividend is cut less, but the amount of shares you own is more. So the amount you receive personally isn't going to change pre-split versus post-split.
Gotcha. Appreciate it, man.
No problem. Does anybody have any more questions? I'll stay on here for another like 10 minutes.
How many Roth IRAs accounts can you open? Can you just do one with one brokerage, or can I do like 5 different ones and max out each one?
Yeah, great question. So the answer is yes and no. So yes, you can have like Roth IRAs at different brokerages, but legally you're only able to invest $6,000 per year. Yeah, I know. I see your face. I wish we could back.
Sorry, you weren't supposed to see that.
No, I'm laughing because I love your question, because when I was like, man, I would love to max out a bunch of different Roths. But no, so say you have a Roth IRA at Fidelity and Vanguard. You can only do 6,000 total. So whether it's 3,000, 4,000, 2,000, you can only do 6,000 total. So I would just recommend keeping it in one brokerage and just doing the whole 6,000 there. Also, it's the same with, and I didn't really talk about this in the presentation as much because usually people pick one or the other. But if you have a traditional IRA and a Roth IRA, you're only allowed $6,000 total between the IRAs so you can't do like a traditional IRA at Vanguard and a Roth IRA at Fidelity and do 6,000 in each.
So there's no loophole, is what you're saying?
No, there is no loophole, and you'll get whenever you get your tax forms, you'll get an excess and you'll get penalized. And so basically, and it sucks. I wish you could, but yeah. So it's the same with the 401ks. Say you wanted a traditional 401k and a Roth 401k, you can't do 19,500 in each. The sum of both of them has to be equal to or less than 19,500. It's the same with IRAs. I know that sucks. Trust me. I wish if I was running the tax code, then I would be doing, anyone could have as many Roths as they wanted.
Do you happen to know if my union rules about having an annuity affects me being able to open my own IRA?
I wouldn't know that. I would maybe check with, I don't know much about unions. I would check with whoever, I don't know, like HR. I don't know if they have that in unions, but whoever runs that stuff, I would check with them and see, because, it might differ between your union versus another union or something like that. I would just check with them and see what they say, because they'll obviously know a lot more.
Cool. Thank you.
No problem.
I had a question as far as life insurance. I have a friend that's been trying to motivate me to get that into it, get my kids into it, as far as like an MPI account.
Okay.
Whereas they're saying it's better than a Roth IRA in the long run. I know he said you pay fees in the beginning, but he's saying that it's your life. That's what he's getting at. It's your life. So why don't you just put that, you're putting money into your life insurance. I know he said he had to do a medical test and everything like that beforehand. I appreciate you answering the question too.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for the question. I don't know much about that MPI thing or life insurance in general. How I see it is, and I'm not saying, he's lying or not. How I see it is, life insurance is great, right? We want to, if something were to happen to any of us, we want our, survivor, family, kids to have something, monetarily wise, there to help them get through it and keep where they were living. How I see it, however, is that, and I'm not I don't know enough about life insurance to say like it's horrible, don't do it. But just on a baseline thought process is the more I invest, and when you invest into your accounts, you can set up your beneficiaries meaning people that will essentially take over your account if you were to die. And that you can set, your wife, your kids, your husband, your parents, your sibling, anybody, you can set as a beneficiary. And so I see it as the more I, am financially smart with my money, whether through investing, and if something horrible were to happen to me, yeah, they're not going to have that life insurance policy per se, but I set my beneficiaries up so they will be able to, take over my and have access to and use that investment money that way. So I'm not, it depends on the situation. It might be different from you. I don't know, your age. I don't know your health. I don't know any of those things. But just at a baseline thought process, that's how I see it. But again, it's going to be different for every single person. And so I don't want to say like, do this, don't do that, or he's right, I'm wrong, or whatever it is. But that's just kind of from my perspective.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
No problem.
Okay, so I have a question. Based on what you're saying in regards to contributions from the companies, if your company is matching you 100%, right?
Okay.
Based on what you said that we have to pay the taxes on it. If it's a traditional 401k, am I correct?
No, so are you saying at contribution or at withdrawal?
At contribution.
No, so if you're doing a traditional IRA, your money and your company match, you don't pay taxes on any of that stuff until you withdraw after age 59 and a half.
And if I was to do a withdrawal before the 59, would I have to pay taxes based on the location of where I'm paying taxes? Or am I paying the taxes because where the company's located, if they're in two different states?
Yeah, it will. If you do it before 59 and a half, you will have the 10% penalty. Plus you will have the tax on that withdrawal based on your income bracket, your tax bracket. So it's based on you yourself, not where the company's located.
Okay, and then the other question I do have is that I've been seeing a lot of people are using Acorn. Is that someone that is suitable to use to do IRAs?
I would personally, if you're going to do like a Roth or even a traditional IRA, I would stray away from Acorns, especially just because, Acorns, I'm not saying it's a bad app. However, it's an app. It's not really, solidified, not like Fidelity where it's like a huge corporation, a huge company. And if something were to happen to Acorns, right, they could go bankrupt easier because they don't have that backing, that financial backing and that stuff like that. I would highly recommend putting, especially your retirement accounts, IRA in specific, into like a Vanguard or Fidelity or Charles Schwab, because they're just more, I don't know how to explain it, more than like, they're just more solidified, and they're bigger companies that have the chance of them going bankrupt and things happening like that are slimmer than like an Acorns.
Thank you.
No problem.
Hi, I have a question.
Yes.
So I'm 29. I spent the last couple years pretty sick. So when I was working, all my savings were going into my health, investing in myself. Now my health is getting better. I'm looking for more full-time employment, and I'm trying to figure out, there's so much, before you think of like investing, or you said like tying up your money, I'm also thinking about like, what is a reasonable amount to save for a rainy day? And then when can I pivot to thinking about more long-term holdings, like, doing a Roth IRA, investing in, choosing long-term index funds? What's that pivot point?
So a lot of people recommend for the rainy day or emergency fund would be 3 to 6 months of your expenses. So 3 to 6 months, say it's $2,000 a month that is your expenses. 3 to 6 months would be, between $6,000 and $12,000 in your savings account for that emergency fund rainy day. However, that is very different between, someone who is single with no kids versus someone who has a husband or a wife and kids. It differs between your job security. It differs between a lot of different things. that's just kind of the blanket recommendation is 3 to 6 months to have there. And that's for, emergencies, car breaks down, AC, refrigerator, anything like that is for that. That's where that emergency fund comes into play. And that's 3 to 6 months. Again, that might be, some people I know, they have 12 months. Some people, they're a little more risky. They go, 2-3 months. A lot of different factors play into that. And then from there, that's when you're able to kind of have that money there for just in case emergencies. And once you get that emergency fund built, or at least, most of it funded or a lot of it funded, then you can start to pivot towards investing because you have that buffer that if something were to happen, you don't have to touch your investments. You can just use your emergency fund. Say you take $1,000 out to pay for, new tires because you got into a car accident or something. Then next paycheck, okay, I'm going to put $1,000 into my emergency fund, and then I'm going to focus back in on investing.
Okay, thank you.
Yep.
Hey, I got a quick question. So say that you're married, is the contribution for that year doubled or would it be reduced?
So these for like an IRA and a 401k, these are for individual people. So if you have a husband, wife, partner, anything like that, you guys can each open up an IRA and do 6,000 each, or your 401k, you will have your own 401ks. So it's not, technically it's doubled, but it's not like it's all it's your account. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Perfect.
Hi, I have a question.
Yes.
Can you talk a little bit about HSA? So like health savings accounts, can that be opened by anyone?
So HSAs will be from if you have a high deductible insurance plan, and from there you are able to essentially invest your health savings accounts. That's what HSA is, and the beauty of that is it's what's a triple tax advantage, meaning the money you put in is pre-tax, the growth is tax-free, and the withdrawals are tax-free as long as they're for qualified purchases or qualified medical expenses. So HSA, high deductible, most of the time, high deductible insurance plan, but you're able to put that money aside and let it grow year over year and year, as long as you don't, you can obviously use it if you need it, but if you don't, you can grow it every single year. And again, it's triple tax advantage. So essentially, again, you're not paying taxes now, you're not paying taxes while it grows, and you're not paying taxes when you take it out, as long as it's for and used for medical qualified expenses. So if you are able to get HSA, and that's a route you want to go down, it's a great opportunity to another investing avenue to have triple tax advantage.
Is that only through an employer, or is that something that an individual can just go out on their own and open up the same way as they can open up a Roth IRA account?
I don't know the answer 100% on that. If you could send me a message, I could get you, or I'll send you an account that talks about this stuff, almost every day. So that way he would know more about those kind of stipulations. So if you send me a message on social media, like right now, when I'm done here, I'll get back to you.
Okay, I'll do that. And I also was asking because there was the gentleman that had the mother that he was trying to save the money for. So I was kind of thinking that maybe he could do something like that, but it's called the HSA for him if he wanted to look any more information about it. But thank you. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for the question.
Yeah, I got one more question for you. I know I've been hearing a lot of everyone talking about a Roth IRA in here. I know my grandparents talked about a Social Security for retirement. I know there's 401ks that started like basically in the 70s, and I know Roth IRA started like before 2000. Have you been hearing about any other retirements? As far as, there might be a time that's coming up that people might need to pivot and maneuver their Roth IRA into another retirement. Have you been hearing about anything new that's possibly might be a better choice for us?
I haven't heard anything, and I do a lot of like reading and staying up to date on that stuff. I haven't heard of any new type of retirement accounts that are coming out or in the talks. I know that, like you were mentioning, employee pension plans, that used to be a thing. Now they're going away. That's when 401ks were created or, came about. And then Roth IRAs came about. I haven't heard anything or read anything about, potential future, at least in the near future, retirement accounts that are different than what we have now, that offer different types of, tax benefits or benefits in general. So I haven't, and if I do, I will definitely, share it on my social media because it's cool to learn and hear new things. But as of right now, I haven't heard anything or read anything about future plans.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
No problem.
Hi, I have a question. Oh,
Yes.
sorry. So for a Roth in your 401k, you can contribute the max is $19,500 a year. If you decide to do a Roth outside of your job, the max you can do is 600, right? I mean, sorry, 6,000.
Yes.
Oh, can you, if you do have a 401k Roth, are you able to open a Roth outside of that also? Or because they're two different contribution amounts, does that work, or is that still technically the same thing? You can't do that.
No, you can. So you can open up you can have a Roth 401k and a Roth IRA. The only, and you can max out both of those. The only caveat that comes in is when you're doing like two IRAs or a traditional IRA and a Roth IRA or a traditional 401k or a Roth 401k. That's where that stipulation comes in, where you can't max out both of the same account type, being 401k or Roth 401k, or you can't max out 6,000 in a traditional IRA and 6,000 in a Roth IRA. But you can have a Roth 401k, max it out, and you can have a Roth IRA and max out that 6,000.
Okay, so the money that you contribute, let's say you do a Roth IRA, and the money you contribute, if you need that money and it's been 5 years, you can take out the money you contributed penalty free.
Yeah, so you can take out in the Roth IRA after a 5-year holding period. Yeah, say it's $6,000. You can, or whatever it is.
What happens to the investments though, like the growth?
So that will stay in there because the earnings that you had from that 6,000 or that your contributions, that money will still be in there.
So it doesn't grow anymore until you add more money?
No, it will continue to grow. It will continue to grow, just as if you contributed to it. It's just will be less of what you took out. So
does that also work with a 401k Roth where you can take out the money penalty free after 5 years, or does it depend on what your company policies are?
It's with the Roth IRA right now. That's the rule. It's just with the Roth IRA.
Okay, got it.
Yep.
All right, thank you.
Oh, hello.
Yes.
Yeah, I have a question. I have a pension, and I want to open up a Roth IRA. Now, I retire at 53 years old. Would there be an issue if I had a Roth IRA and I wanted to pull back from it at that moment?
Yeah. So the Roth, these 4 retirement account types are 59 and a half and older. So it's not, whether someone retires at 52 or 55 or 40 or 27, whatever it is. It's based off of the age, not like retired. So you would still, even though you're technically retired, you would still incur that penalty because you took it out before 59 and a half, because it's based on age, not retirement.
Okay. And is there any way, as far as law enforcement, I don't know, I've heard that we can add more money than 6,000, or is that just is that true that we can add more than 6,000 a year?
I don't have an answer for you because I don't know enough on that. That would be something, I don't know, that would ask your department and whoever runs that stuff, and just ask what they know on it. Because I don't apologize, but I don't have an answer for you on that.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
What happens if, hello?
Yes.
What happens if you pass away before you actually withdraw from your account? How long would your beneficiary have to actually wait until they can get the money?
So with the So it will go to your beneficiaries, like you said. And I don't know the ruling. I don't know off the top of my head the ruling on how it works if you pass away before, 59 and a half, and it gets traded or moved on to your beneficiaries. I don't have the answer on the top of my head right now on how that works and how where that comes in. So I don't want to say yes, no, otherwise, because I don't have it on the top of my head. I don't want to give you the wrong information. But if you send me a message, again, I when I have time to sit down and see it, I can give you an answer. But right now, in front of my, on the top of my head, I don't know. I can't remember how it works on the top of my head.
Hello.
Yes.
Hi. If you're trying to open up a Roth IRA for your children, ages 7 and 10, how should your portfolio be? And I guess they could also get $6,000
Yeah.
as minus.
Yeah. So they can. The only stipulation is that at 7 and 10, you have to be able to, I guess, for lack of better terms, prove to the government that they did work to earn that income, that $6,000. How it works, and again, that's just a quick Google search of what's considered earned income in a Roth IRA. It'll pull up a list. At 7 and 10, there are ways. Maybe you pay them to, clean the house or mow the lawn or any, these little things you can prove to the government that they had earned income. But it's something you will have to do just because they're younger and they don't have like a W-2 pay stub. But from there, you just open up a custodial account and you can invest essentially they can too, but you're the custodian on top of it. But again, it's something you have to prove to the government that they had earned income for the year.
Okay, so do I have to report them like in taxes? Do I have to pay them taxes?
You would have, it would be like yes, you would have they would have to pay taxes because again, it's the money, the Roth IRA is tax money that has been taxed by the government already. So there would be it's that stipulation that you'd have to prove and go that route to show the government that it was earned income.
And I guess an accountant should know how to handle that, correct?
Yeah, if you, I'm sure you could talk with someone at the government, an agency or something that would be able to help explain how to get it done, or you can talk to an accountant or somebody that deals with that kind of stuff, and they would be able to guide you more so in the right direction of how to get that taken care of.
And last, that Roth IRA, you cannot use it for college. It's basically still just as a for when they retire.
You can take it out at any time again, but you will have that 10% penalty. Or you can take out your contributions after a 5-year holding period, but so if you want to go college idea, I would look into, and the Wealth Dad, he actually did a presentation a few days ago on this, so it might be up in the Wealth Squad soon, but what's called a 529 account. And that, if you're doing it for college specifically, that's a great opportunity to get tax benefits for your children in a college fund.
Okay. And then
go ahead.
And lastly, for given that I stick to the Roth IRA, what type of funds should I know you said ETFs and long index funds. Which one should be best for, because of their ages, obviously they have time to accumulate?
Yeah, I would just go with a broad market, low cost index fund, right? Like VTSAX is a lot of people, again, that's not a recommendation. It's just an example. That's a good one that is broad market, low cost, and that's essentially holding every single stock in America. And you're essentially hoping and betting that America will grow long term.
Okay, thank you.
Yep. Well, I'm going to head off here. Thank you everyone for coming on here and asking questions and being attentive. And if you guys have any other questions moving forward, I will be doing one of these, I think in 2 weeks. Also, what's up, Mahid? How are you? And good. But yeah, send me a message on social media at Decade Investor if you have any questions, or anyone that I said, just send me a message. I'll get to you and answer your questions or guide you in the right path to an answer to your question. But that is it for me. And I appreciate again everyone for being here, and have a great rest of your evening, day, wherever you are. And Wealth Squad to the moon.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thanks for everything. Awesome.
Yep.
To the moon.
To the
Thank
moon.
you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Have a nice day. Great job.
You too.
Thank you.